it kind of looked exactly like you would expect it to look. KD and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal just taking turns running action, whether it's a dribble handoff or coming off of a wide pin down or running pick and roll. You'd see Booker and KD both did some work off of that Iverson cut where they basically set a screen right at the foul line, and you have the ball on the left wing, and you have the player you're trying to get the ball to on the right wing, and you have him cut off of that guy, and he catches in kind of the mid post on the left side with a cleared side with the defender in trail position so he can rip through to the baseline, right? And they'll run that with Kevin Durant. They'll run that with Devin Booker. Well, it doesn't matter what action they run. It turns into Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal looking to take pull-up jump shots. And the three of those guys combined to take 21 shot attempts, and 15 of those 21 shot attempts were pull-up jump shots. And they made 8 of them. They were making them. And that's what it's going to be a lot this year. And again, think about that. That's over 70% of their shot attempts were pull-up jump shots. And again, it worked. And what was crazy is there was a lot of talk about them playing off the ball and their ability to capitalize on spot-up situations. Those 3 guys combined to take 1 catch-and-shoot jump shot, and it was a transition 3 from Bradley Beal in the left corner. So, it's really just, talk about brute force, it's really just those guys coming off of screens and taking jump shots. Now, again, and we're going to get to some other elements, but, I want to zoom in on this pull-up jump shooting offense for a minute, because this is where it gets tricky, because I was talking with Eddie Gonzalez about this morning, and he made this point where he's like, this is where the openings are. Teams are trying to funnel you to the paint. They're trying to protect the paint with rim protection, and they're trying to chase you off the three-point line, right? So theoretically, the soft spot in NBA defenses is in the mid-range. That's a fact, right? We talk about pick and roll coverage. You come off a ball screen, the defender's job is just to chase you, even if he's behind you, even if he's not attached, the opening is in the mid-range before you run into the rim protector, right? And so it is true that this is where the soft spot is in modern NBA defense. And in theory, if you can make them at a high enough rate, that can be enough to win you a championship. The question is can you make them at a high enough rate? We talked about this with the Nuggets, the idea of unguardability. The defense is willing to concede anything that's around a point per possession or less in the half court, right? If they think you're going to take a bunch of pull-up twos but only make half of them, they're probably going to live with that, right? Especially if it's a little bit below half. In the Nuggets series last year, in their 4 losses, the Suns shot 39.7% on pull-up jump shots, or 44% when weighted for threes. So 44% in effective field goal percentage. That's 0.88 points per shot. So we can talk about, the Denver Nuggets, they're giving up these shots and drop coverage to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. But at the end of the day, they were scoring, that's 0.88 points per shot. That's something the defense can live with. So again, I'm not criticizing the offense. The offense can work, and it did last night. They scored well over a point per possession on pull-up jump shots last night. The question is, can they do it in the later rounds of the postseason? When it gets more physical, when you face better perimeter defenders, and those shots tend to dip in quality, right? And so that's going to be the thing. People used to say this about the Warriors, right? Can they win a title shooting threes? Now, obviously, they overlooked how good defensively that team was, and that arguably was the biggest reason why they won. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and say they can't do it, because everyone used to say that about the Warriors. They can't win shooting threes. Well, then they won shooting threes, right? So I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying this is how it has to happen. If Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant are going to rely primarily on a diet of pull-up jump shots, they need to make them at a rate well over a point per possession, because then it becomes untenable for the defense. If it becomes untenable for the defense, then you're going to have to start coming way out higher in pick and roll, and then that's what's going to open up all the stuff in rotation for guys like Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen and everybody on the weak side, right? That's what's going to make it so that Yusuf Nurkic has the short roll opportunities to pick you apart in 4-on-3s. Everything's going to come down to whether or not they can make those shots. Defensively, I'm not going to talk about it too much because they played a really limited Pistons team offensively. They play 2 non-shooting bigs and Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Durant alongside Oscar Thompson and Cade Cunningham and Alec Burks. So, like, I'm going to wait to do a deeper dive into their defense until they play a higher powered offense. But I did think it was interesting that they decided to start Josh Okogie. And we talked about this a lot in their season preview, which, by the way, we did on Sunday. So if you Suns fans haven't seen it, the full season preview of the Suns is on our feed if you scroll just a little bit further back. But we talked about whether or not it made sense for them to go all in on offense or defense, right? And I did think it was interesting that they went in on defense. Not a big shock from Frank Vogel, right? Like Frank Vogel's drop coverage is like the anchor of his entire defensive thought process, right? And it utterly depends on a guard who can chase over the top of screens. And so I understand why they went with Josh Okogie in that specific position, and it worked well. And Okogie actually did a nice job kind of attacking offensively in that unit as well. But I don't want to talk too much about the Suns' defense until we get further along in the preseason. On the Detroit front, it was funny. Oscar Thompson stole the show. Cade Cunningham actually really struggled. He was 1 for 9 on pull-up jumpers and 0 for 1 on free floaters, so he was 1 for 10 basically on shot making in the game. And he had a couple of nice pocket passes to Jalen Durant and Isaiah Stewart for buckets. He had a nice lob to Marvin Bagley, had some playmaking. But, like, Oscar Thompson stole the show. Everyone remembers the three-pointer in the corner that sent the game to OT, but he flashed a lot of really high-level possessions of point-of-attack defense and navigating screens. He was flat-out causing problems for Eric Gordon, sidling up over the top of screens and staying attached to him. He had a possession where Devin Booker tried to isolate him downhill to his left hand, and Asar just literally swallowed it up and like blocked it with 2 hands up top. It was unbelievable defensive play. He had 6 assists. He had a really nice dribble handoff coming off the left wing or off the right wing to his left hand where he got downhill and then made a wraparound pass to Jalen Durant. That was really impressive. A couple of nice transition feeds where he was getting downhill in transition, generating rim pressure, kicking to shooters, or there was another play where he dropped it off, I think, to Marvin Bagley, trailing the play. Just an impressive game from Asar Thompson. You know, all the intel around him coming into the draft was that he's a basketball player, meaning like he's just a guy who's good at all the little things. And that stood out immediately, even more than his brother at Summer League when I was out there, and flashed in a big way again in the preseason yesterday.